George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. So we've been talking about it for weeks here on Inspiration for the Nation, and we're now getting some answers from part of the team that got this done. $100 billion over 20 years, and it's the biggest investment in the history of New York State, not just in central New York, but in New York State. We're talking about Micron investing in central New York, and part of the team putting that together, Rob Simpson, president of Central State CEO. Rob, good to see you. Good to talk to you. How big a deal? Well, I don't even have to say how big a deal is this. That's a rhetorical question. This is a big deal. How did it get done?
It's kind of a big deal. I mean, here's the simple answer to how it got done. The most collaboration and teamwork on any project I've ever seen in my 19-year career. Everybody from the county executive to Senator Schumer, Governor Hochul, and the regional business community working together hand in hand, pretty much every single day for 15 months during a very long courtship in order to put this deal together. And I think it's not just this deal. This project is the culmination of so many years of what I like to think of as self-led revitalization efforts here in Syracuse. We've been doing a lot of work over a long period of time trying to put this community back on the map. And the Micron opportunity is, frankly, even outside of the window, I think, of even our most ambitious aspirations.
It's called a Micron Mega Fab investment. CHIPS, we hear a lot of different acronyms. CHIPS investment, because of the CHIPS and Science Act that was passed by and led by Senator Schumer, because County Executive Brian McMahon was buying up land and clay. But let's back it up for what exactly is going to happen here in Central New York over the next few years.
All right. Next year, 2023, is going to be a lot of site development. This is where the county, I think, is really going to shine. Taking the 1,400-acre site that they've assembled, working with the company on air permits, working with the DEC, literally getting the ground ready to start building. And in 2024, we're going to start to see, real construction on the site. In the meantime, though, we're going to see a lot of activity. And I think just even before the end of this month, we're going to start to see Micron here in Central New York on a much more regular basis. They've had, dozens of people here just the last couple of weeks coming in, coming out, meeting with community organizations, meeting with our educational institutions, starting to develop partnerships, the kinds of partnerships that we envisioned a corporate Fortune 500 company like Micron might bring along with an investment of this scale. I think the community, when they recognize the full scale of the commitment that Micron has made to us, not just $100 billion, not just 9,000 jobs, but the values that they share with us and what they're going to bring to our community in terms of leadership, I think the community is going to be overwhelmed. I know I am.
We beat out Texas and other people who wanted this. They said that part of the reason why they chose Central New York, and you talked about those shares values, they said rich pool of diverse talent. They said partnership opportunities in education, access to water and clean, reliable power. Texas has all of that, right?
Yeah, listen, every place is going to claim they have it. I do think that one of the things that certainly has worked to our advantage here in upstate New York is this is a community that historically has been very insulated from some of the challenges associated with natural disasters. Mm-hmm. And in particular, you think about the changing frequency of those disasters with climate change. A place like Texas, over the last few years, and not to knock them, but they've seen some challenges with their power grid. And if you're in the semiconductor industry, power reliability is a critical issue. I think that worked for us. Unlike a place like Arizona that has had a lot of success landing companies in the semiconductor industry, the water future in the Mountain West is not quite so clear. Here, that water future is pretty predictable over the course of the next 50 years we're going to have. Yeah. These things that I think many of us have talked about for decades that could be assets for us at some point, we are starting to see now for the first time in my career that those assets are really becoming tangible decision-making factors that global corporations are taking into consideration.
You talked about the collaboration. You had Senator Schumer and Ryan McMahon, you had Governor Hochul and the business community, right? Not people you would normally see on your greeting card for the holidays. And so why did this particular project work across all of the different interests?
First of all, one thing I want to emphasize is that all of those stakeholders, and not just the principals, but the teams that they represented, we just developed a sense of camaraderie over the course of 15 months that was pretty remarkable. I've worked on a lot of deals in my time, certainly nothing of this scale, and I've seen challenges that come up now and then that derail those collaborative mindsets. That didn't happen at all in this process. Two, I think if you think of all those stakeholders, every single one of them, regardless of their political persuasion, where they live, every single one of them shares a desire to help upstate New York and put this community and our entire state and region back on the map. And this was a unique opportunity for us all to do that. No matter where we sit, no matter what our political party, none of us will ever have a chance likely to do something of this scale and this magnitude, and that has the human impact that a project like this will have. So if ever there's a point in time where you're going to set your own personal thought process or your ambition aside or your ego aside to work together, it's going to be on something like this. This project was just too important to allow anything to get in the way of success.
And what are they actually going to build? And I think it's important for you to make it really clear for people what they're actually building and how that, and who are they selling it to, and what the impact will be.
All right, they are going to build up to 4 mega fabrication facilities. Each of these facilities will have a clean room up to 600,000 square feet each. That's up to 2.4 million square feet of clean room. That'd be the largest clean room in America, maybe even the world. Each of those buildings will house approximately 2,000, a little more than 2,000 employees, direct employees of Micron. But the campus itself will support thousands of additional contractors that are working for their supply chain partners and their vendors. All told, we estimate that the total jobs impact of this project will be close to 50,000 jobs in New York State, 45,000 of which we expect will be here in Central New York. And they're going to be producing leading edge DRAM memory, which is a type of memory that you often find in your computer that stores so much of the critical data that we process as we're working on emails and photos and videos and all the rest of it. Micron is the world leader in memory manufacturing. They're an amazing company that we're very fortunate to partner with, and they're going to be doing that leading edge DRAM manufacturing at volume here in Central New York.
That right there says it all. And when you talk about 50,000 jobs over time, that transforms a region beyond measure.
So think about it this way, George. Our total regional employment is 362,000 people right now. And so,
and when you say region, the 12 counties, right? Is that what you mean?
No, I'm actually talking about the Syracuse MSA.
Oh, Syracuse MSA. Okay.
Syracuse MSA. This project will add more than 12.5% to our total regional employment. It's likely to add upwards of 25% to our regional GDP over that 20 years. Another way to think about this, and the way that I explained it to my son over the summer when he was trying to understand the scale of this project, right? Because it's just silly numbers that we're talking about. The Amazon project in Clay that we completed a couple of years ago was the biggest single capital investment in the history of Onondaga County. It was a $400 million project. What Micron is proposing is 250 times bigger than the next biggest thing we've ever done here in this community. This project is going to change lives of people for generations to come. It is going to require us to probably build upwards of 40,000 new units of housing throughout the Central New York region over the course of the next 20 years. And my estimate, and this is not scientific, but it's just basic, simple math. My estimate is I think this project is going to result in upwards of more than 125,000 people moving to Central New York over the course of the next 20 years. That's a massive increase in our population, the likes of which we haven't seen since the creation of the Erie Canal.
I know you have an Office of Economic Inclusion, and how do particularly the audience that will hear this program or watch this program, how do they see themselves being included in a project of this size? Marginalized communities, traditionally underrepresented businesses, Black-owned businesses, businesses by people of color. How do they see themselves in a project of this size or being a part of it, given what the scale of it is? Because we're also talking about a region that has noted the highest concentration of poverty in those sectors.
Absolutely.
So you got the both end, right? We got this biggest thing ever, and then we still have this other issue in the community. So how do you see that this project impacting this very issue that our region is also known for?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that question. And I would just say this discussion has been central to our conversation with Micron since I think our very first meeting. This is a company that if you go on their website, you will find has one of the most robust DEI commitments where they publish their stated goals, they publish their the makeup of the workforce. They hold themselves accountable to being the best possible and most inclusive employer they possibly can. We talked to a lot of other semiconductor companies over the course of the last 2 years as we working to try to land a project at the White Pine mega site. And I can tell you that Micron is the company that all of us, all of the project team, this is the company we wanted. And one of the reasons we wanted them is that this is a company that shares our values. They believe in inclusivity. They believe in the power of diversity. They believe in investing in our communities, in workforce development partnerships, and higher education, and the K through 12 STEM pipeline. I think over the course of the next couple of weeks, you're going to see some significant new announcements from the company that are going to begin to, I think, be the first chance for our community to get a sense for exactly what type of employer Micron intends to be. But I'd point you back to the press release from 2 weeks ago. In addition to announcing the single largest investment in the history of New York State, they have also made the single largest community investment fund in, as far as we can tell, the history of the world. There is a $500 million commitment that's being made, $250 million coming from the company, another $100 million coming from New York State, and another $150 million that ourselves and the county, the company, the state, the federal government are going to work to leverage from other national and corporate partners so that we can strengthen the very fabric of our community and ensure that these jobs are accessible to the most number of people in our community. One thing I'll say about semiconductor manufacturing is that it is often perceived as a job that is exclusive for those with engineering degrees.
Right.
And there's no doubt that engineering degrees are critical. Actually, it was one of the great saleable assets that we have in upstate New York. 17 colleges and universities, 7,200 engineering degrees every single year. 6% of all the US engineering graduates in a year literally graduate from 2 hours of downtown Syracuse. The company loved that, and why would they not? But the company also hires thousands upon thousands of technicians. And those are jobs that are far more accessible, that don't necessarily require an engineering degree. They might require an associate's degree or a certificate. Certainly they require training, but they are jobs that in some cases pay $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year that are accessible to people that don't have that, postdoctorate education. And I think that's something that's very attractive about this project. Workforce development and K through 12 and higher education partnerships are going to be a critical component of how we help our community maximize the value of this project.
So I know we're gonna cut this, but I have to do the Syracuse thing, right? But what if they don't do what they say they're gonna do, and it doesn't have, you know what I mean? Rob, you know how it is here. You know how it is.
Have to do it. We've been doing that for too long. I mean, listen.
Okay, great. Say
you
do
know
that.
you
Yes.
know me.
Yes.
You know me as someone
Yes.
who has a high degree of optimism.
Yes.
I always see the glass half full, and
Yes.
so I get it. I've heard the skepticism. I've heard the negativity. We have fought through it over the course of the last 20 years, and we're going to continue to fight through it. This project is real. Go online and read about Micron. They're the fourth largest semiconductor company in the world. This is not a fly-by-night operation. This is not a startup. This is not a company that's going away tomorrow. They need to make this investment to serve their customers around the world. This isn't something they're doing because they are getting incentives from the state of New York or from the federal government. This is something they are doing to meet the rising global demand for memory because of all the sensors that are around us, 26 of them in the tire of your car, right? Reading your air pressure and everything else. This company produces that memory, and they need to make these chips to meet the needs of their customers. The incentives from the federal government mean that this project gets built in the US, not in Singapore. The incentives from New York State means it gets built here in New York State, not in Texas. but this project is going to be built. These jobs are going to be accessible to many people in our community, and the lives of people in Central New York are going to be changed for better for generations to come. And I just think cynicism is fair. Skepticism is part of the DNA of this community. But if ever there has been a point to embrace something that offers hope for the future, this is that project.
Well said, Rob Simpson, President, Center State CEO, with the major announcement in the last few weeks. Micron will be investing $100 billion here in Central New York. Rob, good work. I'm sure we'll have you back as we continue to look at this project and making sure that it is, as you say, accessible to all. Inspiration for the Nation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.